Hello, Internet. Happy Monday. It's Screen Junkies Universe. Roth Cornett couldn't be here. So I am here in her place trying to keep the train on the tracks, which I won't. Dan Murrell, Spencer J. Gilbert, Billy Business. It's the day after the Golden Globes, which means we're going to talk about the obvious thing. We are going to relitigate whether or not Star Wars The Last Jedi was a good movie or not. So sit back. We're putting this baby to rest right now. I don't know. What do you guys think? Hologram Luke? Did it work?
Oh, boy.
I'm sorry, Dan.
I told you what I'd do.
If we talk about the Last Jedi, Dan walks.
Dan walks. Golden Globes. We're going to get into some highlights. We're going to talk winners. We're going to talk snubs. We're going to yell at the people that yelled at the poor little girl that starred in 8th grade for daring to like Rami Malek. Shut up. Highlights. Let's get started. Dan, overall feel for the show. Did you like it? Were you bored?
No, actually, for once I wasn't, because I felt like there was no, the TV side, there was really no front runner, so I didn't really know who was going to win anything, and I was actually sort of surprised. Even like there was like, when they go through the names and you're like, okay, that's the winner. Like every time we did that, it wasn't. Yeah. It was like comedy is like, oh, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And then it wasn't. Like, oh, okay. But then the movie stuff, I thought I knew who was going to win everything. I thought it was going to be A Star is Born, shoveling through everything. And it actually what? They won one. They got the song, which they deserved. And then everything else was like either an upset or just definitely not A Star is Born. So it was actually kind of interesting for once. Like, oh, wow, I would not have called that. Yeah.
Kept you on your toes. Spencer.
Yeah, look, I'll level with you. I feel like I'm like a Weekend Update character who's like ask a guy who kind of casually tuned in and out of the Golden Globes last night. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you this. The stars were out in full force. I watched the opening monologue. I thought it was, that's fine. But I was happy to see Sandra Oh. I tuned in when she won. That was cool. I saw Into the Spider-Verse win. That was awesome. The rest of the time, I was like, yep. There's some people accepting awards. They're drunk. They're not taking it very seriously. So I followed suit.
What were you doing when you weren't watching?
Email. I wish I had a cooler answer. I was just like, oh shit, it's Sunday.
Figured you'd be like tasting wines or.
Well, yeah, of course I had my nightly Cavassier.
Yeah.
You and the ladies, man.
Billy, how drunk were you by about hour 2 of the Golden Globes, and what'd you think?
I'm kind of split the difference between Dan and Spencer.
Okay.
I was on the couch watching it, like it was on, but I also was playing word cookies on my iPad.
Okay. All right.
So there was a point where I looked over at my wife and was like, what is he talking about? And she's like, something about a boat, I think.
Oh, I did like that because I'm a huge Buckminster, as he calls him, Bucky Fuller fan. Buckminster Fuller, designer of the geodesic dome, a very...
I did not think this is what we were going to do first. All right, jump in.
A super interesting guy, architect, philosopher, real radical thinker, and I think that anybody looking for something interesting should look into the life and works of Bucky Fuller.
Okay.
If anything from the Golden Globes, I hope it's a big spike. I hope we all
Bucky.
catch Buck fever.
You're all trim tabs, man.
They're all trim tabs, man. We're all the Little
Bridges.
Rudder moving the boat, man.
National treasure.
Yeah,
Jeff
absolutely.
Bridges. Those things are usually such a bore. Like I hate to say it, like not to disrespect the legacy, but like the Lifetime Achievement Awards are usually like kind of a bore, like a like we need to recognize this person and we're all gonna do it. But like his speech and Carol Burnett's speech were both awesome. Yeah. And it's like, even that's what I mean. It's like the Golden Globes, we make fun of them. And ultimately, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about what it might mean for the Oscars. But ultimately, it's just, let's get drunk. But at home and in the room. Actually, there was some good speeches, not least of all from two people very deserving of legacy awards in Carol Burnett and Jeff Bridges.
That was a cool moment, seeing the first, obviously. That was also a very funny bit, reading off the nominees.
It was just such a different vibe between, like, last year. I remember Oprah's speech was just like this call to arms, and Meryl Streep the year before, and this time was like, fucking boats, man. Like,
boats, man.
Your rudders. And I was like, what is happening? What are we talking about?
My favorite Golden Globes moment is still when Denzel Washington won the same award and was just like, the Golden Globes are a sham.
Yeah.
they told me to show up for a lunch and shake some hands. I did, and they gave me an award.
Yeah.
But we still do them every year.
I saw Denzel, I want to say it was during Jeff Bridges' speech, or maybe Carol Burnett. I'm pretty sure it was Jeff Bridges. Like, what I love about Denzel, you can tell year by year, and he's sort of had like the last 10 years he's been nominated a bunch because people are finally saying like, oh, he's good, which like, yeah, of course he's good. He's been good for a long time. He won early in his career, and now he's at the part where later in his career people are like, we gotta say that he's good again, not ignoring the middle part. Like it's like there's one thing where it's just like everyone's like in rapt attention, and Denzel's like on his phone.
Yeah.
Like you could tell he's just.
It's amazing.
I love it.
He was playing the cookie game with Billy.
Yeah, he was playing word cookies.
It makes
whatever.
me think he's an even better actor because he clearly has no ability to act just
No.
in social situations or in person. He's just like, I'm going to show you on my face exactly what I'm really feeling, but then he can like become a character.
Remember when Casey Affleck kept beating him, and every time they cut to him in the crowd,
Actually,
he was just
you're
like,
actually a big influence on me, Denzel. Yeah, like that's really cool. And
Denzel's like, cool.
I love it.
A moment that I did not catch was that Melissa McCarthy was giving ham sandwiches to people.
I don't know if they showed this on the air, but I guess at the ceremony. So they serve the dinner early because they don't want clinking plates the whole ceremony.
Okay.
But a lot of the stars don't show up, until 10 minutes before it starts, so they get
hungry.
in. It's over.
Yeah.
You're not getting any food. Melissa McCarthy, I guess, learned from the past couple of years.
Right
and
on.
brought 30 different ham sandwiches.
That's awesome.
She's looking out. I appreciate that.
I guess Jessica Chastain was just like, how did she get them in here? Security's so
Not going to
tight.
search her bag.
Yeah, what are they
ham
gonna tell? Sorry, Melissa McCarthy, no outside food.
But yeah, she fed the hungry.
Wow. What a saint.
So one of the sort of biggest stories we've been obviously covering, the evolution of streaming and Netflix and the future of the who blah blah a lot on this show. Netflix won the most awards for a single studio, 5 among movies and TV.
Yeah, Roma, best foreign film, Alfonso Cuarón, best director, and then you had the Kaminsky Method.
Which I guess I need to watch.
Guess we got to check that out.
To find and watch.
Very excited we won a Golden Globe.
Although I'm still waiting to watch Mozart in the Jungle after that one, best comedy series.
Still on my list.
Still on my queue.
Still on the queue.
I still don't know what it's about. I assume it's about someone teaching music to people in the jungle.
See, I wish it were literal, and it's like that unexplored time in history when Mozart went to the jungle.
I want it to be a full like pulp novel adaptation where it's literally the composer Mozart fighting people in the jungle,
gorillas to compose.
Yeah,
and it's very touching.
I felt bad for Alan Arkin because Michael Douglas won, and then Mozart in the Jungle won, and he was just like, you could tell, like, at one point they're, like, going up. He's like, do we go up there? And he's like, I got the, what the, huh? He's just standing there. You tell it's just like, whatever, I don't care. It's fine. No one gives Alan the award yet again.
You blew it again, Arkin. Yeah. That's it. He blames himself.
You blew it again, Arkin.
Poor Alan Arkin. He definitely blames himself. Let's go through the winners and get your thoughts, man.
Okay.
This is the most important award ceremony of the year.
Let's trip tab this thing, bro.
Let's just trip tab. You guys, let's just all be the small rudder on this ocean liner.
The big rudder, man.
Yeah, man. This is going to be cool. Best Picture Drama, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Wow. That was a shocker.
Did not see that coming.
At the end of
I don't know if you guys are being sarcastic or
No,
not.
I'm
seriously.
not.
I think I
I'm not
predicted
even
it.
convinced that Bohemian
You did
Rhapsody
in our
did.
Golden Globe thing.
I don't remember why, but I just had a feeling that they'd do something stupid, but like...
Well, because the world loves Queen, and then the Hollywood
Yes,
Foreign
yes.
Press Association, and Mike Myers was apparently given some kind of Medal of Freedom at some point. I don't know what he was wearing. Probably something important that I'm now making light of. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, who knows?
But because The Star is Born wasn't winning anything, so I wasn't surprised that it wasn't A Star is Born, but I was surprised that it was Bohemian Rhapsody.
yeah.
The critical critic Twitter lost their effing mind over it because they didn't like it. I liked the movie, so I wasn't personally offended as far as quality goes. I know that there's a lot of Bryan Singer stuff and people like, how dare you? But I mean,
He got
there was a lot of
He
other
gone.
people that made that movie, and Rami Malek, I certainly think, was the only reason that movie was even in that position to win to begin with. And I was happy for him that he won because I thought he did a great job.
But don't you think it was strange that nobody said anything, not only about Brian, but the director who took over? It was just completely this, like the Oscars. This movie has been directed by no one.
Yeah.
They were definitely walking around things because then it was like this award's being accepted by this person on behalf of that person. It reminded me of you guys take a break. Wrestle Talk.
Okay.
WWE's made a deal to do shows in Saudi Arabia, but to get around it, they wouldn't
acknowledge
say
where
Saudi
they were. They're like, we're here live in the big arena, and you're like,
wow.
we know where you are.
We know where you are. Yeah.
Very
It's called
definitely
Crown Jewel, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I know where you are.
So it kind of reminded me of that, where it's like, we're definitely in a country, guys, and this sure is going to be fun.
Yeah. I just know a lot of people are like, Bryan Singer's happy, so that means this is bad. And it's like, I understand the idea of like, it's a complicated issue with Bryan Singer, and he's been accused of some really heinous stuff, and I get that, but at the same time, it's like, to only appoint, to say that the only arbiter and the only person who should be given credit or celebrate a film success is the director, and when he wasn't even the director, he was a guy who was problematic, who, you know, on set, who was replaced at some point in the film's production. It was finished by somebody else. And again, having seen the movie, I liked the movie. Rami Malek was great. I thought it was really well edited. I thought there were a lot of other great performances in it. You know, I understand that's a complicated discussion, but I'm not one of these people that's just like, because Bryan Singer directed it, this movie should win nothing and never be recognized for anything. And I think there are some people that are saying that, and I understand the conversation around it, but I disagree with that point of it.
I don't know. I just think, like, the class that it was in, it's like...
Well, that's a whole other discussion.
Are you telling me that Bohemian Rhapsody is better than Black Klansman?
No,
like,
I'm not. Bohemian Rhapsody,
speaking?
of the 4 movies in that category, was, to my eyes, not as good as at least 3 of them. That's a whole other discussion about whether it should have beaten Black Klansman and if Beale Street should talk specifically those 2 in my mind. And then I know with a lot of other people, also Black Panther and Starr is Born. So,
but this was the movie that the most people saw. This is definitely the biggest hit in the category, and that cements the Golden Globes. To me, they're like the People's Choice Awards, but if you could also buy them.
I don't know. If that were the case, I feel like Black Panther would have had a bigger shot at it.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
But that was a bigger domestic film than global.
Right.
Bohemian Rhapsody was massively popular in the global stage.
I know this is impossible to do because we're number 1, but take the U.S. out of the picture.
I can't.
Number 1 in
Literally can't, bro.
illiteracy, child mortality. We got it.
We're nailing
rock
this.
and roll.
Well, I do like the 2 winners simply because I feel like they're both in the wrong they're in each other's category. Best motion picture, musical, or comedy. Green Book. You got a really good drama that won for musical or comedy. But we've done this bit already on NBC First Look, which now you can watch on YouTube.
Cool. I tried to watch it, but then it was 2 other people talking. Do I have to fast forward or something?
Like, you just don't want to watch me and Dan talk?
Did you think we were hosting this? No, we were a segment in the show.
It's the great Johnny Bananas, Spencer. He's the host.
Yeah.
We got like 7 minutes. I was kind of surprised.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Oh, so television's Screen Junkies.
Yeah. All the weird hat takes you guys made that you probably didn't think would be on NBC were on NBC.
Yeah.
So Green Book. Surprised, happy.
I wasn't surprised by that point
Beside
of the night.
myself, Joe.
Just thrilled. Were you watching at that point?
I would like, I was.
Help me pretend that I give a shit about the Golden Globe, Spencer.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's impossible for me to not focus on this. Joe's Cup. Let's bring Joe's Cup into the thing. It says sip hole, and this has been really throwing me for a loop here. I don't know if we can zoom in, but I can't not look at this throughout the whole show.
No, we can't zoom
It says,
in.
Please, we don't have camera people.
It says sip hole, and the arrow is pointing up, as if there were any other options. Or tell me what's going into the design of this, Joe.
I mean, I didn't make the cup.
Buckminster Fuller would have never made an amateur mistake like
No,
this.
absolutely. Well, I don't know if it's calling this the sip hole or if it's referring to that's where I put my sip hole.
I think the same.
Put your sip hole right here.
I had a practical explanation, but that one's way better.
That's my
Put your sip hole on it.
You got your pie hole and your sip hole.
Yeah.
Aside from
Very
that,
different
Green Book
things.
seems like a lovely feature film that's still on my list to check out.
Yeah. Glenn Close had a great speech after winning for Best Actress for The Wife.
That's the one that I think might have a little bit of impact, potentially, on the Oscars. Because I'd always thought that Glenn Close was kind of a sleeper. Everyone's been saying Lady Gaga, Lady Gaga, Lady Gaga, Lady Gaga. Because it's a great story. She's a big star. She's a very heartfelt performance. But Glenn Close is the veteran. Like, Glenn Close has been overlooked and snubbed and everything else for decades now. And number one, I think a lot of people wanted to vote for Glenn Close, but a lot of times they don't want to get in the way of the narrative. They're like, well, but it's Lady Gaga's year, and this is sort of the way that it's going this way. But the fact that Glenn Close now has won a huge award like this gives people cover to be like, and it sucks that they have to do that. Like, she's a legitimate contender now because she actually won something. So people are like, so I can vote for her. Again, these are all stupid reasons, but I think this is how it works. And two, I just did A and two. B, her speech was so good that I don't know how people now could look at that and be like, oh my God, if she won an Oscar, she'd give the best speech ever. Thirdly, and I hate that this is third, I saw The Wife, and she's phenomenal in that movie. She is so good. Like, if I got a vote, that's who I would vote for. Okay. She is so good in that movie. And Lady Gaga is a fantastic performer in A Star Is Born, which we all knew that she was, and she has a great La La Land, Emma Stone, big emotional number at the end, which helps. But I knew she was a fantastic performer, and I thought she was pretty good acting. Glenn Close's performance in The Wife is so good. That's who I would vote for. So I think that might have some impact.
Criminally snubbed as the Prime Minister cop of Xandar, right, in Guardians?
Yes.
So this is a makeup award.
And Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, and Cruella.
In 101 Dalmatians.
Finally.
Actually, really good in that movie.
Yeah.
Super fun.
She was really good.
Billy, best Glenn Close movie.
Oh, it's got to be Fatal Attraction.
All right. So yeah, that's probably true. Let's jump over to Best Actor. Christian Bale won for Vice.
Wait, I want to talk about Olivia Colman, who had just clicked in my head oh man, she's Sophie in Peep Show, my favorite comedy of all time.
She's a standout in Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz.
She's amazing in
Look Around You.
Look Around.
Yep.
Oh my God, Look Around. You haven't thought about that.
I love Look Around You.
Yeah.
It is so good.
If you guys haven't seen Broadchurch, you should watch Broadchurch. It's an amazing little piece of television. She's incredible in it.
She was already the queen of British television.
Yep.
I think it's now a three-person race with her, Glenn Close, Lady Gaga. Whereas we always talk about the early prognostications always go one way, and I think the early prognostication was it's Lady Gaga's to win. She's got it in the bag. But now I think it could be those three competing like the front runners. And of course, Toni Collette, hashtag an Oscar for Tony, the best performance of the year.
That's right. Christian Bale won for Vice. Spencer, if you could just do your best Bale impression of his speech. I just want to see the reenactment.
You know, I can't. It's like a dialect of somewhere in the UK that I can't fully place. I got nothing.
It's Welsh if you were raised in a chimney.
Okay.
I think.
Joe, hit us.
I mean, I can't do it, but I just like that they just cut back to his wife, and you could just see in her eyes, just like.
Did he just think Satan? He did.
Christian,
okay.
Quiet. You're done. And wrap it up. And wrap it up. And wrap it up. Which I appreciated.
He obliquely referenced the Terminator thing, I think. Good for you,
really?
which is still my favorite Christian Bale because he said something like he's like, yeah, you know, I can really sink a perfectly good movie in a so-so career by just like opening my mouth and keeping on talking. Like, to me, that was him acknowledging the fact that we've all heard him yelling at a DP for walking through his eye line during a shot.
Props to him for already being in lovely shape after gaining all the.
How does he do that?
He's gonna die at 55, right?
Yeah,
His heart cannot take all the stress.
He went like Skeleton Man for that Machinist movie, and then he went to Batman, and he like put on like 50 pounds of muscle, and then he went to Dick Cheney size, and now like when he walked up, I was like, did they shoot that movie 3 years ago?
But
like,
then you also have to remember he got fat for American Hustle, lost it again for Hostile, put more back on for Cheney, and is now back to somewhere before Batman Begins.
Is he Clayface? Wow. Is he the Batman villain Clayface?
Might be.
Or he's like two different. There's a Skinny Bale and Fat Bale, like the Prestige. Spoiler. Yes. They switch places sometimes.
But I also wonder too, like, how much weight did he gain for Vice, and then how much was supported by like makeup and a fat suit?
He put on like, he looked like Curly from the Three Stooges. He put on like 50 pounds for Vice. There was I love that he did actually thank the makeup and prosthetics guys. Yeah. Like, that's pretty cool. But he put on a lot of that weight himself. It was eerie. It was scary.
For that, he should be rewarded.
Well, he didn't fat suit it up like Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
At least he
Gain
put on,
the
at
weight,
least he put on the weight.
Regina King won for If Beale Street Could Talk, which I thought was a solid win. She's really good in it.
Rockwell back there, like, yeah.
Yeah, man.
I approve.
Yeah, get it. Do it. He's playing Bob Fosse in a
That was
series?
interesting, right?
Yeah, that looks kind of fun. Mahershala Ali won for Green Book.
I thought he was great in that movie. I really did. Again, a movie that a lot of people have issues with, and I hear it, but at the same time, I thought he was fantastic in that movie. Had one of the best scenes this year
Right
as
on.
far as performance goes. So
I'm
I was
also-
happy to see him.
I also just want to use that as a backdoor to gauge excitement for True Detective coming back.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay,
You know,
give it a shot,
right?
give it a shot, give it a shot.
Fine.
It's
I
the
don't-
rubber game
Yeah,
of True
exactly.
Detective.
Yeah. I noticed the advertising was heavily like, it's back to the way you liked it.
We'll see.
It's a stunning return to form.
Okay.
We didn't make a second season of this.
They're saying the right things.
Yes. Best animated feature, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse,
Yes.
which I still haven't seen because I am bad at my job.
Wow.
Roma won Best Foreign Film, which isn't surprising. Why isn't there more foreign film stuff at the Hollywood Foreign Press Association?
That's a
Because
great
Hollywood comes
question.
before foreign in the name. So
Yeah.
there's their priorities.
And somebody asked him backstage about the whole theatrical thing, and I know I've been very critical of it, but you know what? He had a great answer. He had a really good answer about it, because someone was just like, don't you think that what you're doing is killing independent cinema by, going to Netflix? And I have to admit, I read his answer. I was like, that's not a bad point, because he was just like, okay, well, you tell me, without Netflix, how wide of a release do you think a movie in a couple of different languages that neither one of them are English, that's in black and white with no stars, how wide of a release do you think that would have gotten, and how many people do you think would have seen it? And he's like, it's still playing. It's playing in 70 millimeter. Like, how many other times do you think this movie would have gotten that much recognition? I have to admit,
Yeah.
he has a point.
No, it was a very, very solid, even kill point. Variety spun that as he
attacked her.
ripped someone apart. Like, you were gonna just click through, and there's just gonna be a video of Karan just consuming this guy's heart.
Journalist tears as he's crushed with ironclad facts.
Oh. That did not happen. Variety. It did not. That is not a thing that
I
happens.
mean, he had a very passionate answer, but that doesn't mean
Yeah,
he's
but he didn't
ripping apart.
He didn't punch or murder anyone.
No.
I wish Variety went back to just using words that no one else understood, of like Bafo, B-O, Sinks, T-O.
There's always there's code words now that I know is going to be a bullshit story. Pardon my French. Before you read it, things like so and so had something to say, and the internet was not happy. I know that's just going to be, we sourced 20 Twitter accounts
found some
with
tweets.
4 likes each, and just embedded it in our page, and then wrote a 1-paragraph summary of something. It's the laziest. It's not even journalism. It's I don't know what it is.
Yeah, anytime I hear the word slams or absolutely destroys outside of a UFC video, no one's
getting slammed or destroyed. If Alfonso Cuarón had punched a reporter in the face, then it would have been Alfonso Cuarón punches reporter and over question. He didn't.
Which would have been kind of fun.
Which,
though.
if
Cuarón just went full gravity and took off that podium into just a sea of reporters and started punching, that would have been pretty.
That would have been
brought
noteworthy.
out the stick from Roma.
Yep. It would have been kind of amazing. Oh, you got a JTE laugh from the booth there.
Yeah.
That's your second one today.
Nice.
Good for you.
Richard Madden won for The Bodyguard, Best Actor in a Television
I
Series.
guess we should watch that. It won an Emmy too.
Yeah, that goes right on with Mozart in the Jungle.
Right behind
For me, I don't know. if I'm
Long
gonna see
queue,
it or
growing
not.
every day. Kaminsky Method,
Oh,
Mozart.
man. There's just too much stuff. Michael Douglas won for the Kaminsky Method. Speaking of which, Michael Douglas voice, go.
No. I'd like to thank the Hollywood Foreign Press. It's more Richard Dreyfuss than Michael Douglas, really. You know who does a great Michael Douglas is Peyton Reed.
Okay.
Who directed,
Oh, yeah,
who directed
he did,
Ant-Man.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The both he does a spot on
That was great.
I hope he directs him in that voice. Directs him as him. That would be incredible.
And it just constantly gets Peyton, I know what you're doing.
Scat. I just say scat.
Scat. Patricia Arquette won.
I've never even heard of this.
Patricia
Escape
Arquette.
at Dannemora.
Yeah.
It's
Also
a Showtime
sounds good.
miniseries with
Yeah.
Benicio del Toro, directed by Ben Stiller.
True
I'd
story.
never heard of it.
Escaping from a jail.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be the biggest show on television 10 years ago,
Yeah.
just because of who's attached, but because we're in an ever-escalating arms race, it's just like, oh, it's just that movie starring 2 Oscar winners, directed by an A-list celebrity.
Whatever.
Throw it in the pile.
Yeah, throw it on the pile.
Throw it in the pile. That's so sad. Rachel Brosnahan won for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That was deserved. I was surprised they didn't run away with everything in TV because my predictions were just I wrote Maisel over the TV section. And
Yeah. The Golden Globes, though, is always the one. We talk about Mozart in the Jungle, way back when, The Office, when nobody knew what the BBC Office.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine season 1.
Yeah, Brooklyn
before
Nine-Nine.
anybody was watching it.
The
Yeah.
comedies especially, they're always like, we're going to pick the one nobody's heard of.
We're doing it. Assassination of Gianni Versace got a lot of recognition. I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised.
I don't know why.
Well-
it was not good.
It
Wow.
was...
So, hot take. From
Darren
Billy.
Criss
Darren
was
Criss
brilliant,
good.
I thought.
I could not follow the way that they tried to tell this story in the second season.
I
It
think-
did not work for me at all.
I think it was for me, it was a storytelling. I don't think it hit as hard for me on a storytelling perspective, telling it backwards the way that they did. Like, I kind of get why they did it, but I think it robbed a lot of things that could have been bigger moments of their importance by telling it that way. I understand the thinking behind it, like we're going to unravel this mystery all the way back to the beginning, but I'll agree with you in the sense that it wasn't. I didn't like it as much as the first season of American Crime Story, and I think it was largely because I didn't quite agree with the storytelling technique that they used. But I thought Darren Criss was brilliant. I was glad to see him win. Some of the other shows, though, I thought maybe could have. Like I said, Ryan Murphy just attracts awards. Like
He's a magnet.
He's an awards
Where
magnet.
was the love for Dirty John? I know, like Eric Bana wasn't even nominated.
Oh,
I mean,
he's
Connie
good.
Britton
Yeah.
was
Oh,
nominated.
that's right. I was gonna say I think it wasn't eligible, but it
Yeah,
must have been.
it
Connie
was.
Britton
It was
was
in there.
nominated.
Yeah, it
know
got
that
a
existed.
nod, and yeah, it's a good show. I think that it's a little pulpy for award season.
I'm going to say this. Sometimes,
Stories.
again, escalating arms
Yes.
race, sometimes I think you just, like, drew some names out of a thing, and you were like, John with Eric Bana and Connie Britton.
Right.
And
Dirty
just
John.
none of it sounds real.
It's all AI generated,
but that's-
like a house with a clock in its walls. But Dirty John, yeah, Eric Bana is amazing in that. He is like the Hulk if he never kind of turned CGI and green, and he's like twice as frightening for it.
Yeah, it's great. I always say too, because if people watch the first episode, they're like, the overacting of the daughters. I'm like, go listen to the podcast. Those daughters are obnoxious.
Yeah.
They actually sound like that.
Yeah, or listen to the podcast True Story.
Okay,
A con man who, well, I'll just tell you that.
It's
just
all DVR'd for me. I
Yeah.
haven't watched it yet.
check
Goes
it out.
on the list with
Throw it in the pile.
Throw it on the pile.
Escape to Dannemora, Dirty John.
And then, of course, the sort of big one of the night was Sandra Oh. She was a great host.
Yep.
She won for Killing Eve, which I know you're a big fan of.
Oh, yeah.
And is on the pile for me.
Throw it on the pile, guys. You really should throw it on the pile. I hope that none of this was influenced by her hosting it because she really did deserve it. It's the best performance of the year and the best series of the year in my mind. So, if it gets more people to watch the show, great.
Anyone else think she was laying it on a little thick at the beginning?
Yeah.
Like when somebody laughed at her because they thought she was doing a bit. Like, I love the sentiment about, like, I wanted to be up here because this is a very diverse year and maybe it'll like that's a great sentiment, but like the delivery, like you literally heard some people like when she went into the closing pitch, like started to like they thought she was doing like an Oprah bit.
Like
There
a
was some
weird,
whiplash.
awkward laugh.
Yeah, they
and
thought
then-
that she was doing like an
Yeah.
Oprah bit.
Yeah,
And
that
it's-
first line. Well, it's a tough transition to go from Lonely Island written material to
Right, yeah.
now it's suddenly like very sentimental.
I'm not questioning her authenticity on
Sure.
it, but I think the delivery was maybe a little heavy.
They should have pulled it away from her delivering Andy Samberg material very well, but it should have had a spot to breathe again. And you saw that in the presentation of it because she started and everyone was like,
Oh,
Right.
serious.
It just seemed a bit. I don't know why. Tonally, out of something. It just like I love the sentiment, but I felt like the sentiment was perfectly fine, and it felt like a
Yeah.
little like it touched kind of like every time who was it? Melissa Leo won an award, like the fighter of the year, that she won everything, and like she didn't just have to let you know that she was very happy to win this award. It had to be like, oh my God. Like, it was like, we get it. Like, you don't, you're good. You don't have to sell me on it. I know that this is very
well, to me,
big for you.
to me it was more direct. As if I was directing the show, I say let's move. Let's
maybe put
just
this
put it somewhere where
Yeah,
she can just
exactly.
say it, and
because her speech felt very heartfelt to me. You know, like I could tell there's just like, I don't know,
But
something
when it
was
came
a little.
on the tails of, I don't know, flu shots or something.
yeah,
like that.
it was like flu shots or
All
something
right,
like that.
let's give it a minute. Now we'll get serious.
Yeah. Overall, how does this impact the Oscars? Do you think, Dan? I think the Glenn Close thing is a good point.
That's the biggest one for me. Is I think Glenn Close is the one that I think more people might feel a little more cover to be like, oh, everyone's gonna be so angry if Lady Gaga doesn't win. I think now everyone's just like, okay, no, it seems like maybe if Glenn Close wins, everyone will also be happy. So people might have a little more cover to vote that way. I guess it deflates A Star Is Born a little bit in the sense that like this is a juggernaut, which I think that train had sort of been slowing down a tad in the last month or so. Like, this is the movie to beat. It's going to steamroll and win every award. I think now it's much more of a wide open contest. Do I think Bohemian Rhapsody is a legitimate threat to win Best Picture? I don't. I think this probably helps its chance of getting nominated for Best Picture, which I know a lot of people are still not happy about. But I don't think it's a threat to win. I think it could enhance Green Book's chances as like an outside shot at being a Best Picture contender, but I don't think it makes it a favorite also to win. I think more than anything, instead of like anointing a front runner in any of the races, I think it just underscores that things are very wide open going into the Oscar voting and the Oscar season. So instead of crowning something, I think it just blew the doors open and made things much more competitive.
Right on.
That's my take.
Gentlemen, overall thoughts, snubs, anything you were very unhappy with or anything you were super thrilled with?
That Fiji water lady's kind of funny. She said.
Okay, I missed this. Explain it.
It's just in all the red carpet looks like, when you can see that somebody is taking a picture of someone else, but you're in the shot, so you like try to look good, like.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful looking woman who is tasked with just holding bottles of Fiji water for stars, and she's like definitely making eye contact with every photographer as they're taking photos of celebrities who aren't making eye contact with them. So you just have in the background like.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, make that meme.
Yeah.
Make that meme.
Big
Billy?
standout.
I mean, this probably is not very good for a show where we're talking all about Golden Globes. Awards shows in general, it's like I don't really think that you can make art a competition. And if your
But we do every week on Thursday.
What's the best art?
But if your favorite movie did or didn't win or whatever, it doesn't invalidate it. It doesn't take away like what it meant to you for the year. So ultimately, it's like, cool, great. I'm glad that you're happy.
No wonder Movie Fights lost its bite, Billy. There's objective winners.
I say that being like, look, to me, I don't think like something like Bohemian Rhapsody. I just don't think it's, to me, as well of a made film as its brothers and sisters that were in the same category. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really friggin' matter.
Well,
all these
especially with
movies
the
still
Golden
exist,
Globes. Like,
you know?
What won the Golden Globes for Best Picture drama 2 years ago?
No idea.
No idea.
No.
Well, there
No
you
one
go.
knows.
Yep.
It's got about
Next week, I couldn't tell you that Bohemian Rhapsody
Yeah,
won
this
it.
has got 2
year.
weeks worth of relevance.
Yeah, it's that's what I don't get is the idea of like, not discounting underlying issues that people have with some of these films, but the idea for people that didn't like Bohemian Rhapsody, and I saw like there were some critics on Twitter last night that you would have thought somebody came to their house and just like destroyed the copies of every other movie about Bohemian Rhapsody and said like, you're now allowed to only watch this one, and guess what? Everyone else in the world loves it, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like just people that just didn't like the movie artistically that were just like, this is an outrage. It's like, because you didn't like it, get over it. Like, too bad. A movie that you didn't like won an award. Gladiator won Best Picture. Like, it happens.
And it was
like,
dope AF.
Yeah, dope AF. The only one I'm still hung up on is
tiger,
Shakespeare
man. What'd you
Love,
fight?
and that's a personal issue. I get it. There's people out there that like, but there were people out there that just were just like, I am burning down the Beverly Hilton because Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Picture. It's like, dude,
It's a Dan rant by proxy.
yeah, I know. Like, everyone else was Dan ranting about Bohemian Rhapsody. Not because, again, not to say that the people that had separate issues just from quality were wrong or shouldn't be saying it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just like there was a critical community, just the people that gave it a green splat that didn't like it. I didn't love it. I thought that it was a pretty standard music biopic that was elevated by a fantastic lead performance. But, you know, I wasn't like jumping up and down and going, I was right when it won. It's just like some people, sometimes it's something they don't like win something. They just the world is ending, and it's like I get it. Like sometimes things don't work out the way that you want them to, and you think that because this one, then it's ignoring movies like If Beale Street Could Talk and Black Klansman and Black Panther that certainly had a lot to say societally and were much I think much deeper movies, but that doesn't they're not erased from history. They're not invalidated. They're not forgotten, and I understand that recognition is important, but it's also like this is the Golden Globes. You know, it's the second tier maybe of award shows, and nobody just stops talking about all the other movies because one movie won.
Yeah. Well, you know, sort of talking about that. My favorite, and you were right, and you were wrong. Is a great way.
Except for Toni Collette being the best
Absolutely.
performance
That's
of the year, which is objectively correct.
No,
But otherwise,
no.
you know, talking about sort of art and blah, 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 and qualifying whether or not something should have won or be loved, or now everything else is gone because somebody liked it. Thank you, Dan. That was the best possible way to bring us back to Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah. Guys, that's our show. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know what you thought of the Golden Globes.
No, Star Wars: The Last Jedi? Question mark.
Let us
No
know
other prompt,
what
just
you
The
think
Last
of
Jedi? Snoke?
Stop yelling at children on Twitter, you dumb monsters. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Put that in your sip hole.